Hi, this is Jonathan Wood from Soft Circuits. This video is on overriding default control behavior in MFC. When you use controls in an MFC application, you use them without having to write classes for them. The code for the controls is actually within Windows. The control classes that MFC defines, such as cedit, cComboBox, and so forth, they don't implement the control logic. Rather, these classes provide an easy interface to the controls. But even though the control classes do not implement the control logic, you can still create your own control classes to modify a control's behavior. And this makes it easy to reuse the modified logic as well. So I'm going to create a new application, a new project. And it's an MFC application, and I'm going to call it just call it controls, and we're going to make it a dialogue based application. And if we go into our resources here, we can bring up the main dialogue. And I'll go to the Solution Explorer, and we're going to add a new class. And we're going to add an MFC class, and I'm going to call it CNumEdit. This will be the name of our class, which is going to modify an edit control so that it only accepts numbers. And I need to derive it from the edit class. cEdit, and that's created my class. Now, in order to override the keystroke so that only numbers are accepted, we're going to override the onChar message. So go to my NumEdit class and go to messages and go down to the WM_char and add a handler for that. So one of the arguments that we get to this method is the nChar, and that's the character being pressed. So we're going to say if is digit nChar. Then we're going to go ahead and allow the default processing. Otherwise, we're going to do a little beep, so that the user will know that there was a problem. Now we'll come back to this and do a little more code, but right now we have a working class, and we're going to go back to our dialog box. And I'm going to add a little label here. And we're going to add an edit control. And the edit control is going to be associated with the class that we just created. And doing that's quite easy. We can just right click on the control and do add variable. Now remember, we're adding the variable to the dialog box, not the control. And the default is a cEdit class for an edit control, and we're going to change that to our NumEdit, and we need to give it a name. And you'll note that the category is set to control, and what that means is that this variable is going to represent the control itself and not a value that's returned from the control. So we click Finish, and let's run it. And if I type digits, they show up normally, and if I type letters, I get a system beat and they don't show up. So it's been very simple to add this to this control, to associate the logic of that class, which we could get to be very complex if we wanted to, and it's just that simple to add it to another control. Now, a couple of things. If I type 1, 2, 3 and then backspace, I get the beep, and that's because our handler is not accepting the backspace. And characters like the arrow keys and delete, those don't go through the on-char event or the on-char handler, but the backspace does. So we're going to add a special case for that. And we'll just add another test. VK underscore back is the constant for the backspace, and we'll run that. And type 1, 2, 3 and a backspace works as expected. Now there is one way to get around the limitation of being able to enter characters other than digits, and that's using paste. And for example, we can right click and we get a context sensitive menu, and there's a number of ways we can deal with that. But if you're going to write a custom control, or you're going to modify the behavior of a control, you may want to add your own context menu and override that one completely, the default one completely. So let's do that. Let's go to our resources and let's add a menu. And now this top menu bar is not going to show up, so we'll just call that num edit. And the resource that we have is menu 1. I'm going to change that to IDR underscore num edit. And we're just going to add some commands here. So now we've created our menu resource. Now in order to handle that, or to add that to our class, we go to the messages, and there's a message called context menu, and that's called when the context menu is going to show up. Now you could also do the handle the right mouse button click, but there are other ways to get a context menu, and so this is the best way to handle this. And so we'll declare a C menu object, and we'll load the menu resource. Oops. And I put this in a loop here. If for some reason load menu fails, we won't be able to do the rest of the logic. So Now here the menu resource includes the whole menu, but all we want is one of the pop-ups. So we need to call get sub menu to obtain a reference to that pop-up. And then we call the track pop-up menu method, and we'll give it a couple flags. And the last argument is a reference to this class. If any of the commands are selected, a message will be sent to that the window associated with this class. There's also an alternative. There is a flag you can set in track pop-up menu, a flag in one of the arguments, where instead of sending messages, it will return with a value that indicates which menu was selected. So we're going to try that now. I've forgotten to uncomment these arguments out. So now I right click, and there's our custom menu. Now you probably also are aware that some newer keyboards have a button between the Alt and Control keys for displaying a context menu, and if I push that, you'll see that it shows up not where we want it, and there's a way to handle that. If that button's pressed, we'll get the coordinates of -1 for both the x and the y. So we can test for that. If point x equals -1 and point.y equals -1, then what we're going to do is just set the point to the x and the y to 5, and we need to convert that to screen coordinates. So now I select the control, and I'm going to push that context menu key, and it shows up right over the control as we'd like. The example we've done here is pretty simple, and I'm sure you can imagine ways that you could customize the behavior of a control so that it gets quite complex. And the thing that I really want to emphasize here is just how you can do it in one class, and then you can reuse that class in many places. And of course that's a lot easier than writing custom code every time you use a control that you want to behave a certain way. So it's a good technique for something that you plan to have to reuse.